What's up YouTube? This is Groudon Empire, and today I'm going to be making a team building guide for you guys out there who, you want a team building guide for BattleSpot singles. BattleSpot singles, is a format that you guys all have on the in-game, alright? When you come here, when you come on Pokemon Global Link, alright, and you go in-game, what you do is you register. Not this, but you register here, you make your account. I'm not going to sign in, but you do that, and then you click over here to the menu. This thing here, you guys can't see it, but you click the rating battles. It's unfortunately not on the camera, but you click on the rating battles, because these are the things you see. And when you click on rating battles, you get this screen up. If you have ORAS or XY, you do whatever you do. If you're playing X and Y, your in-game leaderboard is going to be like this, alright? If you're playing Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, you're going to be here. Now, we're going to be discussing Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, so we're going to be doing it. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, we click here, and now we have our leaderboards, alright? And there are different formats here, but we're going to focus on single, alright? We're going to focus on single. And this is important. I hope you guys understood how to get here. If you didn't, I'll just leave a link to this particular page in the description. And this is the format I'm going to be discussing. I'm going to change the season to season 7 so you guys have the data, because what you want to do first when you're building a team is you want to look at the usage data. So we're basically going to come down here to Pokemon ranking. And when we click here, we see the moves that they tend to use. So almost 100% use Earthquake, for example. We check the abilities they carry, the natures they run, the items they hold, when they win, what do they run? When they lose, what items do they lose to? What Pokemon do they lose to? And unfortunately, you can't see everything on my screen, but you should be able to get the gist of everything. You should be able to get the gist of it, alright? Victorious, you see this. Alright, so now this is out of the way. Now I'm on a website here called PokemonShowdown.com/teambuilder. I'll link this in the description as well for you guys who are new to this. And what I'm basically going to do right now is I'm going to be explaining to you how to build teams. Now, I want to explain to you guys my personal peak for BattleSpot single in the cartridge. So let me show you guys. Okay, season 6. Okay, it was 1917, as you guys can see on the screen, top 1,000 in the world. And for those of you guys who don't know how high that really is, I want to show you guys what that is right now quickly. In front of your faces, how high that was in X and Y, just so you guys know, alright? In Season 6, that was equivalent to, in the United States, that's equivalent to higher than number 5, alright? That's pretty darn high, okay, 1917. And, if you compare that with Canada, for example, it's way over number 1. If you compare that with South Korea, that's tied for number 7. That's either number 7 or number 8, you know what I'm saying? That's in UK, it's number 2, you know what I'm saying? So I'm pretty darn high. And in terms of YouTube content producers, the highest rated person that has evidence, and of course, highest rated player for BattleSpot single, alright? So if you're into the in-game cartridge ladder, definitely that is a reason enough for you to check out my content, and especially this team building guide, because this team building guide is going to be for you guys who are interested in this format, alright? This is not for the smogon formats, this is for this guide. This is for this format, for rating battles in the cartridge that all of you guys have access to and that you probably are interested in, but you never had the ability to learn how to play 3 versus 3. This guide is for you, alright? First thing to do right now is to explain the differences between 3 versus 3 and 6 versus 6, alright? Because I know a lot of people, they think 3 versus 3 is unbalanced, uncompetitive, and completely stupid, alright? And a lot of this is biased, and it is because of inexperience. And it's understandable, it is. It's very understandable. It took me a while to learn this format, and Pokemon has been out for so long that it will take a while to learn a new competitive format. You know, it will take a while. So if you're interested in 3 versus 3, and there's so much negativity around it that you just never got into it, but you were always very interested, this guide is for you. And if you hate 3 versus 3, I hope that you watch this just so you get enlightened a little bit, and hopefully you can try it out for yourself, and you can end up appreciating the different skill set and, you know, what is involved with doing well in 3 versus 3. So first thing to do when you're team building is the first thing I like to do, alright, many people like to do, is they like to pick the Pokemon they want to use. Now, when I want to do that, I usually pick a Pokemon that deals really well with the common threats in the format. So what I do is I look at the usage, the top 12 used Pokemon, for example, over here. And I want to pick a Pokemon that deals with most of them really well. First thing I want to do is I want to choose Garchomp, because Garchomp is the #1 used Pokemon, and I need to be able to deal with it. So I want to use Garchomp. Click on Garchomp, and I look at the teammates that Garchomp tends to have. And what I want to do is I want to move this here. It doesn't mess anything up. So I see the most common teammates are Talonflame, Gengar, Kangaskhan, Rotom. So what I want to do right from the get-go is I want to choose a Pokemon that can deal with Garchomp and it can deal with Talonflame, because these are the most 2 used Pokemon. And I'll see how things go from there. So when Garchomp dies, it loses to a Kangaskhan, alright, most commonly. It can also lose to a Porygon too. But let's look at the Pokemon that are its teammates. Talonflame is the #1 teammate. Kangaskhan can deal with Talonflame, but Talonflame can whoop Kangaskhan as well, so it's risky. It's risky, you know, and a lot of them carry Will-O-Wisp, Rocky Helmet, and Roost, so it's actually not a fun time. So when you think about it, Porygon 2 is actually the best bet. Porygon 2 can deal with Talonflame, with foul play and just being bulky. It can deal with Kangaskhan because it's bulky and it can use foul play. It can deal with Garchomp with Ice Beam. You know, it can deal with so many things really nicely. So I think what I'm going to do is I want to start this off by using the Porygon 2, because Porygon 2 is actually a really, really nice Pokemon. You know, it's a really nice Pokemon. And it does a lot of different things. And I'm going to start off with using a Porygon 2. Alright, and I'm going to give it the Eviolite right now, because you can see what it does for yourself. And I hope this catches everything. I'm not sure if it did or not, but I hope it does. I hope it does. So the ability I'm going to give it, Trace is a good ability because you can trace Rough Skin, you can trace Parental Bond, and you know, Analytic is nice, but it's better to have Trace in my opinion. So I'm going to run with Trace. They're all really nice abilities. So the first thing I want to have is I want to run Foul Play. And then I'm going to run Ice Beam, alright? And I'm going to run Recover because it's a very important move in my opinion. And the last move, we're going to go back over here and see what Porygon 2, what else it can do. Alright, so we see that it deals with Garchomp really well with Recover and Ice Beam. We also see it deals with well, it doesn't deal with Gengar. See, Gengar is a problem. Kangaskhan, I can use Foul Play on Kangaskhan, but then Recover, like, it might be really strong. What if it has Power Up Punch? Then what am I going to do? I mean, a Foul Play destroys it anyway, right? So that's not too much of a problem. Then there's Rotom Wash here. Maybe I want a Toxic Rotom Wash, because what else am I going to do to Rotom Wash? You know what I'm saying? And then Aegislash is an issue as well, you know, if it's depending on the variant. And a lot of them, let's see what Aegislash runs. They can be any set, you never know. So let's go back to Garchomp for now. So Charizard's an issue, you know, and to deal with Charizard, I can Thunder Wave it and then Foul Play. If it's Charizard X, it cannot do anything. I can kill it with Foul Play before it does anything, you know, kills me. Aegislash, I mean, if I EV myself slow enough to be slower than Aegislash, Foul Play will take the boost. Will take the 150 attack stat that Aegislash has and kill it. If it's a subtoxic variant, I lose to Aegislash. Gengar, I'm not going to die to a Gengar. Focus Blast in one hit. So I can Thunder Wave it, and then I can Foul Play and I can recover, and hopefully I can 1v1 Gengar. And versus Porygon 2 and Cresselia, I would love to have Toxic, but we'll deal with that later, because look, these are such common Pokemon that it's nice. And even Blaziken, maximum health, Porygon 2 can survive. And I can Thunder Wave, and now Blaziken can be dealt with. Azumarill is an issue, we'll deal with that though. So let's go back right now to Porygon 2. And what we can do is we can run Thunderwave, because I can cripple things and then I can recover on them and I can foul play. It's a good time. I do want to run a bold maximum nature for maximum defense, maximum HP. We want to set it to level 50 so we can see the stats ourselves. And right now what we can notice is our speed. Like, let's look at Aegislash right now. Aegislash, when Aegislash is running minimal speed, alright, at level quiet natured, with 0 IVs, has 58 speed, alright, and we have the same base speed. But what I'm saying here right now is what we should do is we should run not this nature but a relaxed nature to lower our speed and have 0 IVs. Now we can speed tie, or hopefully go slower than opposing Aegislash. We can take their 150 attack boost after they try to attack us. Like, they get 150 at base attack, we can use that and we can demolish them with foul play. And that's why I'm going to run 0 speed IVs and a relaxed nature. And then I'm going to run 4 in special defense right here. Get that even number, we get a maximum boost in our special defense, and we get maximum boosts with our defense. Very, very bulky Pokemon. Very, very bulky. Amazing, amazing Pokemon. And get rid of Aegislash for now. So now we have our Porygon 2. So what are the problems with Porygon 2? Alright. So we dealt with this thing right here, right? What are the problems with Porygon 2? Let's see. Let's go to Porygon 2 and let's see what kills Porygon 2. Alright? When Porygon 2 is defeated, it's killed by a Kangaskhan. It's killed by Salamence. And why? Why is that? Alright? Because, I don't know, I'm not sure. Probably because they're used so commonly. But look at the moves. It dies to Hyper Voice. So it dies to Sylveon a lot. You know? It dies to fighting types. Blaziken, Lopunny. It dies, and Azumarill can set up on it and destroy entire teams. So, those are all issues. So how do we deal with that? With fighting types and with Sylveon? Well, one thing we can use to deal with this is a Volcarona. Volcarona deals really nicely with Sylveon, and it's flame body and physically bulky. You can deal with the Blaziken and the Lopunny as well. Well, not the Blaziken so much because of Flare Blitz, but the Lopunny definitely. So what do I really want to do? Do I really want to run a Volcarona? Or do I want to run another Pokemon to deal with the Blaziken? Because also, go back to Garchomp, and we notice how Garchomp has these teammates here. How are we going to deal with these teammates? Rotom Wash is an issue. How do we deal with Rotom Wash? How do we deal with Charizard Y? You know what I'm saying? How do we deal with subtoxic Aegislash? How do we deal with opposing Porygon 2, Cresselia, and Blaziken? So we have to find a Pokemon that can really deal with these Pokemon. And for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go look for a website right now, the type coverage calculator. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to use this guy. I'm going to use this calculator to see fighting type resists. I need a fighting type resist that also resists fire. Let's see what Pokemon come in this, because I need to deal with Blaziken. So we see over here right now, we have Pokemon like, we have Salamence, you know, we have Slowbro, we have Gyarados, but we have Azumarill. So Azumarill really strikes me over here, because look at the Pokemon we have to deal with, alright? Let's keep this open. We're going to come to this again and again. Rotom Wash is an issue. Opposing Porygon 2 and Blaziken are issues. So how do we deal with these 3 Pokemon? Alright, how do we deal with those 3? Alright, so we see this team here. Azumarill can deal with the Blaziken, but it can't deal with the Rotom Wash. So we need a Pokemon to deal with the Rotom Wash. And right away I can think of Dragality, but you see the problem is it's weak to Earthquake, and that's never a good thing, and that's why I don't like running Dragality. Another thing we can do is we can look for Pokemon that are physically bulky, that are not necessarily, that don't resist fire, but they're physically bulky and they resist fighting. Because again, we're also dealing with Lopunny offensively, right? And so let's go back and let's look for Pokemon that can hopefully deal with Rotom Wash, because Rotom Wash is a serious problem. So now we're going to look at this. Now what do we have here? We have a lot of ghosts. That's the first thing we notice. A lot of ghosts. And, you know, to deal with Blaziken, Gengar is not nice, Aegislash is not nice, because Blaziken can whop them. So we don't want a ghost type, alright? We really don't want a ghost type. It's also immune to burn, so I can't use Prankster Sableye either. So we don't want a ghost type. So let's look at this list down here. What can we use? Charizard's actually not bad, alright? It isn't bad. Charizard Y? Not bad at all, you know, not bad at all. So what can Charizard Y do? Charizard Y can take down the Porygon 2. At full health, you know, you do massive damage to a Blaziken. Solar Beam takes down the Azumarill. You can overheat the Cresselia, and that's actually really nice. And Lopunny doesn't, well, Lopunny can hurt you back with return, so you're not all that fast, so that's actually a problem with Charizard Y. So let's look at other Pokemon, alright? Venusaur is really nice. I can Leech Seed Porygon 2. I'm immune to being toxic. I can do the same thing to Cresselia, and I'm so bulky, I can do Synthesis on it. Again, I'm such a bulky Pokemon. Like, I wall Azumarill completely. I wall Lopunny, alright? I wall Rotom Wash. And Blaziken will die to recoil if it even thinks of killing me. You know what I'm saying? So you know what? I'm gonna run a Mega Venusaur. So let's use Mega Venusaur. All right. If Mega Venusaur looks very promising. So we're gonna run Venusaur. Venusaurite, and ability again. Chlorophyll, normal ability. It really doesn't matter. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to set it to level 50, and I'm going to give it Leech Seed and Synthesis, because as we just saw, alright, we're going to have to deal with the likes of Porygon 2 and Cresselia, and if you can Leech Seed them, that's going to be amazing, alright? So Porygon 2 and Cresselia, you can Leech Seed them, and you can stall them to hell and back. And Azumarill, you can run Azumarill and the Rotom Wash, Giga Drain covers that, but Sludge Bomb deals with the Sylveon, so what we can do is we can run Sludge Bomb and we can run Giga Drain, and now we have a Pokemon that can really deal with things nicely. Now, do keep in mind that we want to run a physically bulky variant, so we don't die to Blaziken, because Blaziken can annihilate us. We can have Blaziken kill itself with recoil. That's really important. And Cresselia, it's going to use Psychic. Let's go to Cresselia right now. It's going to use Psychic, not Psyshock. Psyshock is very uncommon. Psychic is a move it tends to use. So that's a problem. That's actually a very big problem. Not really though, because if you know, it only does 30%, 35% damage. You can Leech Seed it, and then you can Synthesis all day, and you can switch back out into Porygon 2. It's a good time. You don't have to worry about anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a physically bulky variant, because again, I want to have maximum. I'm gonna make this a bold nature, and I want to make this maximum maximum physical defense, and I'm gonna put the rest in special defense, because why not? It doesn't matter. Just so we maximize our physical defense, because we have threats like Kangaskhan, we have things like Heatran in the metagame. You know, we want, well, screw Heatran. We have things like Kangaskhan and Mawile. We want to have maximum special defense, physical defense. Salamence is an issue. So far, Porygon 2 is not the best counter for Salamence, and we'll deal with that. We'll deal with that in a bit. So right now we have really good defensive options for the threats in the format. You know, we can Thunder Wave this. Well, Gengar is an issue right now, but Gengar, Salamence are issues. You know, Talonflame, like, for all these top 6 Pokemon, you know, we still don't have a reliable answer. If, say, Porygon 2 is gone, Talonflame wrecks us, right? Aegislash, again, sub Aegislash destroys us. So we still have issues. You know, Salamence, it's still a problem. You know, Blaziken is still a problem, and we have to deal with that. You know, we have to deal with Salamence, Blaziken, the Charizards, Gengar, and Aegislash. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to go to Gengar. And what I'm going to do right now is a note that I need to have a Pokemon. No, not Gengar. I'm going to go to a Pokemon. Well, I'll keep Gengar in mind, but I want to think about Salamence right now. Alright, what are Salamence' teammates? Salamence usually has an Aegislash and a Breloom as teammates. So how am I going to deal with that? So far, my team has a hard counter for Breloom, so it's okay. But Aegislash is an issue. I need a Pokemon that can deal with Salamence and Aegislash, alright? So how am I... And Swampert, alright? I want a Pokemon to deal with Swampert. Well, I have a Pokemon to deal with Swampert, Aegislash, and something... Swampert, Aegislash, and Salamence, not Venusaur, because Venusaur dies to Salamence. So let's look at what this Pokemon dies to, alright? This Pokemon dies to Kangaskhan a lot. This Pokemon dies to Greninja. It dies to Garchomp. And I really like Garchomp, because what Garchomp can do is, it has Stab Earthquake for the Aegislash, alright? I can set up Stealth Rock, which makes Talonflame's life miserable. It does 25% damage to Salamence and opposing Charizard, and it destroys Charizard Y. You know, I outspeed it and I can deal with it right away. And the Focus Sash is amazing. With Rough Skin, it's amazing just as a revenge killer, and it's just an amazing Pokemon. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to run a Garchomp, because also Heatran is an issue for you guys that didn't notice. So I'm going to have a Focus Sash on my Pokemon. Rough Skin, I'm going to give it the rocks, because Stealth Rock is an amazing move for any 3 versus 3 format, and any singles format, not 3 versus 3. It's amazing in 6 versus 6 Smogon formats, but it is still useful in 3 versus 3. I'm going to give this guy Rock Tomb because of the speed decreasing. The speed decreasing utility is amazing. You know what I'm saying? Because look at this. Oftentimes, you're going to have a setup Pokemon in front of your face like Salamence or Gyarados. You just keep on using Rock Tomb on it. It's a super effective move, and even if it's a Mega Gyarados, it's not super effective. It lowers their speed. So you're still going to outspeed them, and they're going to drop you down to your Sash, and you can just outrage them and kill them, or just keep on Rock Tombing them. If they don't Dragon Dance, they're going to be at -1 speed, and whatever Pokemon you bring in next has a high chance, especially if it's a Venusaur, has a high chance of outspeeding and actually killing off the Pokemon after all that damage. And it's just really nice for the utility. And look at Greninja. Greninja tends to have the item Life Orb most of the time, but then it also has Focus Sash. And what you can do is you can break sashes with Stealth Rock, and if it's a lead Greninja, you can use Rock Tomb to break the sash and make it slower, and the next turn you can kill it, especially if it's not running Water Shuriken. Water Shuriken has a good usage amount, but again, Greninja is coverage incarnate, so there's only so much you can do about Greninja, but it can't really one-shot everything, you know, and if it has Life Orb, it's going to take Recoil and kill itself, especially if you use Rock Tomb on it. It's not going to last another turn. It's only going to last another turn, alright? You know what I'm saying? It's going to kill itself to Life Orb Recoil. So what I will do right now is, that's why I use Rock Tomb, and what I want to do right now is I'm going to give it Outrage, because really you have no reason to really want to use Dragon Claw unless you're running a Banded set. Like, you really have no reason to run Dragon Claw over Outrage, because it's just not that much of a worry. Even if they're going to make this guy maximum speed Jolly, max attack, and I want to put the rest in defense because I want to minimize. At level 50, you know, you're going to take more Rocky Helmet damage and Rough Skin damage if you have 184 health, so it's better to have 183. So I give him Outrage because if there's a Venusaur, if there's going to be an Azumarill, you don't have to worry, because you keep that in mind and you use Earthquake or whatever, and you also have your amazing defensive walls right here, so it's nice. Do keep in mind though, 3v3 is a lot more offensive. So right now we have answers for a lot of the top 12 used Pokemon, alright? But now we have to think about teams that are more offensive, because we have our wall core. But what are we going to do to a very offensive team? What can we do to a very offensive team? You know what I'm saying? And that's where problems arise. You know, what can you do to a very offensive team? Now you need offensive Pokemon of your own. You know, what are you going to do to Cresselia when it comes in front of your face and you need to set up in front of it? You know what I'm saying? You need to use that thing as setup fodder. Now let's think about Cresselia here, because we already have Venusaur for Azumarill, we have Venusaur for Blaziken, plus a Sash Garchomp and whatever. We don't really have an offensive check or anything for Porygon 2 or Cresselia, and that's a problem because you can't always bring Venusaur depending on what's going on. And Gengar is also an issue because you don't have a faster Pokemon for it. Gengar tends to run Icy Wind, so I mean it's 23%, but still, I mean you can't always use Rock Tomb and then kill it next turn with an Outrage, you know what I'm saying? So now we need more offensive Pokemon, and we can't kill off Kangaskhan. We don't have a fighting type Pokemon on our team. And Salamence is still an issue, and Salamance's teammates are still issues. So we need offense on our team, you know. It might be 3 versus 3, but you know, you're going to face teams like Aegislash, Salamence, and Swampert, for example. Or Swampert, Rotom Wash, and Salamence. And what are you going to do to those guys? You know what I'm saying? You can use Venusaur, but what about Salamence? You know, you can go out into your Porygon 2, but you don't have Toxic. So now you need another Pokemon to deal with this. And this is where I like to introduce an offensive Pokemon that can deal with some of these threats. So we don't have a fire type move on our team yet, and Ferrothorn is an issue. Alright? You know what else is an issue? Mega Lucario is an issue. And so what I'm thinking right now is we should run Zapdos. Zapdos is a very nice Pokemon. You can give it a Rocky Helmet. It's a very nice user of Rocky Helmet, and we can give this guy Roost. You know, it has Heat Wave to deal with the Ferrothorn. It has Thunderbolt, which is awesome stab, reliable stab. And I made a guide for how to get a competitive Zapdos for Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, a battle spot. So definitely look at that guide to get yourself a competitive Hidden Power Ice variant, because this coverage right here is amazing. Let me show you. Let me show you guys. Let me show you guys how amazing it is. Electric, Ice, and Fire. It only has one Pokemon that resists it, alright? And that Pokemon is a Rotom Heat. And you have a Garchomp for Rotom Heat. You know, you wall Rotom Heat unless it has HP Ice. And you know what? Now you see the coverage that Zapdos has. And now we need another Pokemon to deal with the Rotom Heat. So let's deal with that. So we're going to make this guy bold. Let's set him to level 50 so you guys can see the speed and the stats I'm going to give this guy. So the one that I have has 20 IVs here, but I'm going to keep it like this just so you guys can see the stat that I want over here. So 204, I want 143 defense stat. Alright, that's the stat that I want. You can maximize it, but I just want 143. Okay? And actually, you don't need 204. You only need 200 at level 50, as you guys can see. So 200. Now, the one that I'm running is 20, so I don't run 200. I actually run 244. No, 240. So this is the spread that I run, you know. You can see that 122 speed is regardless of whether I have 12 or 16. So I'm going to run 12 speed, and I'm going to run 4 special defense. Now, the reason I want 122 speed is because Breloom. You know, Breloom can spore things to sleep, so it's important to be faster than Breloom. Now, I'm going to show you Adamant speed, max speed. 122 is a speed stat. If you look here, Breloom's most common nature is Adamant. So you can run 122 to speed tie. Now honestly, I prefer you guys to get as good as flawless as possible Pokemon as a Zapdos you can find, and just make sure you have a minimum defense stat of 143. 143 is all you need. Okay, 143, and make it faster. That's all you need. Make it faster than Breloom. That is literally all you need. And you're fine. You don't need any more investment here. You can do the rest over here. Or you can do even more defense. It's up to you what you want to do. But the one that I have is like this. Alright, so Jolly will outspeed you, but it's too bad if that happens, alright? Most of them are adamant, so it should be fine to run this. And you're not going to outspeed them unless you have super investment in speed, and that kills the purpose of Zapdos. So Zapdos with its typing, it can deal with the Lucario, it can one-hit KO after rocks with Heat Wave, it can two-hit KO with Thunderbolt, and you usually survive 2 hits anyway, so it's great. And it's just amazing coverage. You know, you can use this guy as this is your wall. All right, this is your defensive answer to Garchomp. You know, this is your counter. alongside with Porygon 2. And also, it has amazing coverage. You know, you can use this Pokemon to deal with Gyarados. Hidden Power Ice plus Rocky Helmet is really nice for Garchomp and Dragonite. You know, it's really nice for the dragons. And Thunderbolt is a very nice, look at this. 125 natural special attack. It is very nice versus Aegislash for neutral damage. You don't do super effective damage unless it's in Heat Wave KO range, so it doesn't get weakness policy. And you can just keep on Thunderbolting until, you know, it's in range for your other Pokemon. And you can always, you know, Leech Seed non-substitute variants, and you can synthesize in front of them all day, every day. So Aegislash is dealt with as well. So far our team looks pretty darn nice. You know what I'm saying? Tyranitar is not an issue, even though Zapdos hates Tyranitar because of Venusaur. And Porygon 2 can Thunder Wave any physical threat and does Foul Play. Zapdos can deal with the Azumarill. Venusaur, by virtue of bulk and typing and synthesis, you know, Blaziken can kill itself, you know what I'm saying? And right now we have a Cresselia issue. We have a Cresselia and we have an opposing Porygon 2 issue that we need to resolve. We need an offensive Pokemon to deal with that. So how are we going to deal with that? Alright, these two Pokemon are serious trouble. They're serious trouble, and we need to deal with them somehow. I'm not too sure how. But at this point, we have to see we also have a Gengar that's an issue. And let's look at Aegislash's teammates. Aegislash has Hydreigon as a teammate usually, and Hydreigon also needs to be dealt with. So how are we going to deal with these guys? We also don't have a way to deal with Venusaur. So what Pokemon are we struggling with? Hydreigon, Venusaur, Mega Metagross is also an issue, guys. Well, actually no, Porygon 2 deals with that. So Venusaur is an issue. Holy God. Hydreigon is an issue. Venusaur is an issue. What else are issues? Cresselia and Porygon 2. So how are we going to deal with these guys? Venusaur and Hydreigon. What can we use to deal with Venusaur, Hydreigon? Hydreigon. What does Hydreigon die to usually? Hydreigon is typically... it's 40-40, so we don't know if it's going to be Scarf or Specs. So let's assume it's going to be Scarfed. And we need a Pokemon who can deal with it. So Azumarill walls this guy completely. Let me show you guys. This guy typically runs Fire Blast, Focus Blast, Dragon, and Dark. And Azumarill walls it. And even if it runs Earth Power, it's not that strong. So Azumarill looks like a really pretty darn good Pokemon right now. But Venusaur is also an issue. So let's hold back on the Azumarill. Let's think about Azumarill right now and what it brings to the table. But let's think about other Pokemon. So Hydreigon is an issue. Right? Hydreigon's an issue. Is Gengar an issue? Gengar, not the biggest. Well, it's an issue, but it's not the biggest issue. Porygon 2. Porygon 2 is a problem. And what does Porygon 2 die to? Alright? It dies to Kangaskhan. It dies to this thing. How about Venusaur? Let's check Venusaur. Finding Venusaur, I'm going to come here and I'm going to go Pokedex and I'm going to look for Venusaur. And what does Venusaur die to? It dies to Mega Salamence. And, you know, what else does it die to? Talonflame. Okay. Banded Talonflame looks very nice right now, but then Cresselia is a problem offensively. So how are we going to deal with this? We can, you know, what does it usually die to? So these Pokemon, like, think again. Hydreigon, Venusaur, we need a Pokemon to deal with that. And Talonflame deals with that really well. But it hates Porygon 2 and Cresselia. You know, it hates those Pokemon so much. And that's very important because, you know, those are big problems. But something that we actually can do, alright, something we can really do is we can go out and we can run both Pokemon. We can run Azumarill and we can run Talonflame. We can run both. Depending on the matchup, you know, we can use Talonflame, a Swords Dancing Talonflame with the Sharp Beak. You know, that's the one I would prefer to use. You know what I'm saying? Because you can set up on so many things, and you can just set up more and more, and then you can just kill him, right? Gale Wings, you can give it Swords Dance, make it level 50, and we're gonna give it Brave Bird, and we're gonna give it Flare Blitz. And the last move is really up to you. If you want to use Roost, U-turn, whatever you want to do. I prefer U-turn, but I'm going to leave it open to you. You can do whatever the heck you want to do with this. I don't even care what you want to do. In fact, you can even use a banded variant and use Tailwind and U-turn. I don't care. But what I'm going to do right now is I want to make this guy jolly. And the reason I want to make him jolly is because there's a Pokemon out there, alright, Raikou. And Raikou can set up on Porygon 2, Raikou can set up on Venusaur, Raikou can outspeed them afterward, outspeed and kill Garchomp. It sets up on Zapdos, it kills Azumarill, it kills Talonflame, unless you're faster and you can hit it with the Flare Blitz. So right now our team is extremely Raikou weak. Extremely. And it's also Volcarona with Hidden Power Ice weak. But that's why we have Azumarill and that's why we have Talonflame to deal with these issues as best as we possibly can. But again, Raikou is still an issue. I mean, if it can't set up, Venusaur can deal with it. But I mean, if it sets up, we're in trouble. So, Raikou's maximum speed, actually, no, not Raikou. Forget Raikou. Whimsicott. Whimsicott is extremely... Whimsicott will I mean, you have Venusaur, but still, Whimsicott's faster than Raikou, and it's just better to be faster than a Whimsicott. So, what you're gonna do right now is you're gonna outspeed this. You're gonna become base one. We want 185 as your speed stat. So we're gonna EV enough to get 185, and that's going to be a minimum of 180 in speed EVs, and then the rest is gonna go in attack. Now we have 76 remaining. So what I like to do here is I like to put like he has odd HP, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to calculate. I'm going to go here and I'm going to calculate. He has 153 Rocky Helmet damage, because Rocky Helmet damage is extremely annoying. So we want to maximize his health. We want 19.99, for example. So how much health do we want here? You know what I'm saying? So what's 160? So we want to have 159 HP, alright, as minimum so far, right now. So we're going to run until we have a minimum of 159, which is going to be 44 HP. And the rest we're going to split between special defense and defense. And what I want to do is, so I don't get Porygon 2 to get a download boost for special attack, I want to make the special defense higher than the defense, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this guy, I don't know, 32? No, 28. 28, because that's the minimum for the boost. 24 is 92, and then 28 is 93. And the rest is going to go into defense, and then we have a 93, 92. So now a Porygon 2 will not get the download boost, and you have maximum health, so you don't get Rocky, so you have the most health to take Recoil, Sandstorm, and Rocky Helmet damage, you know, and it's odd, so Stealth Rock is going to leave you with over half health, you know, so that's great. So our last, and again, the last move here, I don't know, you can run Roost if you want to, or you can run U-turn. I like to run U-turn, so I'm just going to put U-turn here. And then something you can do here is you can run Azumarill, as I told you guys. So Azumarill is a really nice Pokemon, extremely good. Because it's your offensive answer to deal with things like Garchomp and stuff, right? And it can also help, you know, you can set up belly drums. On Porygon 2 and Cresselia, you can destroy them or their teammates. It is amazing. And if there's a Venusaur, again, you're going to probably use Talonflame instead. And this team is really Cresselia weak. I'm not going to lie, but you know what? This is just a sample team. You guys use the team yourself and you see what weaknesses you have, and you know, you can improve your team based on your experiences. Now, for Azumarill, what I want to do is I want to give it a Citrus Berry because I want to run Belly Drum. I'm going to give this guy huge power because that's the best ability for it. I want to give it Belly Drum, and what I want to do is I'm going to give it Aqua Jet because oftentimes you really don't need Waterfall. Play Rough, absolutely required move. Aqua Jet, Play Rough are required. Now the last move can be any move between Waterfall, Superpower, or even Knockoff. I prefer to run Superpower because I don't want to, you know, a Porygon 2 to, I don't want to miss Play Rough versus Porygon 2, and I don't want to get walled by a Ferrothorn when I can kill it with Superpower. So I'm going to run Superpower, and the EV spread, first I want to make it Adamant. What I want to do right now is I'm going to maximize his attack, and I am going to run not maximum HP, guys. I am not going to share my spread with you guys. You can run maximum HP, or you can run a speedy EV spread, or whatever you like. I run some speed and some bulk. I don't want to share my EV spread, but yeah, that's basically this team. Alright, so this is it for the team. This team covers pretty much everything you would worry about in the Battle Spot singles metagame, and you can use this team to start playing yourself. All right, and what you can do afterwards is use this team for yourself when you're playing. And what I like to do is I play every 4 games, and the ones that I keep notes of how I won and how I lost. And the ones that I lost, I try to see why I lost and if I could have played better with my team at team preview, and also the decisions inside of the game itself. I analyze it very critically, and if I see a lot of recurring problems, then I try to fix that problem if it's a team problem. But usually a lot of the time it's because I'm playing bad, and if I'm playing bad, I have to improve. Now, with a team like this that's not tested, you might find trouble with certain Pokemon that you see, so then you would have to actually change the Pokemon according to what you're having trouble with, or maybe you just have to play better. It really just depends. But you can't just go into the format and be like, everyone is so, like, all the Pokemon, Kangaskhan, Salamence are OP and they're broken, that's why I'm not going to play. No, you should give it a chance and try to adapt with what's going on in the format. It's not 6v6 where, things like Talonflame, like things like okay, Talonflame is a monster in 3v3, but in 6v6 it's not as good because of Stealth Rock. But in 3 versus 3, there are Pokemon such as Talonflame that become a lot better due to the lack of rocks. However, in 3 versus 3, there are Pokemon like Mega Salamence that aren't nearly as good as they are in 6 versus 6 because you don't have as many teammates to deal with your counters or your problems or your whatever. And you can really crack down on the issue with good enough Pokemon, with a good enough team, and picking the right 3 Pokemon at team preview, because there's only 3 Pokemon that you have to deal with, and there's only 3 Pokemon your opponent has to deal with too. So it's like your teams, you have to really play it smart at team building and team preview. And if you build good enough teams, you shouldn't have the same problems you would have in OU with things like Mega Salamence and Kangaskhan. I've played ORAS OU and I wanted Mega Salamence banned. You know what I'm saying? And I've played that metagame with Blaziken and all that stuff, and I know how crazy it is. But in this format, I know firsthand, and also from my actual battling my opponents, it is not, the monster that they are in the Smogon formats. So for you guys who are interested coming from a Smogon background, definitely give 3v3 a shot. And if you guys are not from a Smogon background and you just are not familiar with 3 versus 3, I hope you guys can watch my videos, and actually everyone watch my videos and actually learn from the commentary, and definitely try to play with this team and see what you can do with this team. And if you learn the format enough, you can start using different teams on your own. But again, the format is definitely centralized, but that does not mean that it's broken or anything. You can use things. I've seen monotype teams get in the 1800s, which is ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? I've seen Tangrowth in the 1800s. I've used Reuniclus to get 1900 plus. You know what I'm saying? So you can use certain Pokemon with certain specific roles and actually do really well with them in this format. You just have to know how to play the format, and you need to know the ins and the outs of the format, and your team building for future can be great. So this is how I team build. I actually have a lot of experience, so I don't usually use this. I use my own, my brain, right? I use my brain, my experience, because I played over 1,500 games. But you guys, I'm sure none of you have played as much as I have. That's why you're watching this. So definitely this is how I would go about it in the beginning, I look at their teammates and their movesets and their items and their blah, 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 and I see if I can have 3-man cores that can deal with those teams. And if I do, I have a great team, a wonderful team. you deal with Kangaskhan with sheer offense or just the bulk from this guy or this thing, right? And you deal with Mega Salamence using the bulk from this guy, crippling it, Ice Beam, Sash with this guy, I wall it with this guy, you know what I'm saying? And I have priority in Talonflame, priority is awesome. Volcarona is an issue. I have this guy with, I have Aqua Jet and I have Brave Bird. Raikou, Subcom Mine Raikou is a very, 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 very big problem, like such a big problem for this team. So that's something you guys are going to have to play around and see what you can do to beat that and other problems that I might not have noticed. I hope you guys enjoyed this team building video. I really put a lot of effort into this, and there are differences between 6v6 and 3v3 that I hope you guys can that I hope I addressed in this video. If I have not, please leave your feedback in the comment section. Hopefully I can make helpful videos in the future to really help you guys out regarding these differences. And I hope all of you guys, whether you have a Smogon background or you don't have a Smogon background, you definitely give 3 versus 3 a chance and you learn to appreciate it and its whatever skill set is required to do well in it, and that you also do well in it and have whatever fun you can find from it. And for you guys who are not from a Smogon background or a 6v6 background, that you guys have definitely learned from this team building video, and that you will continue to support the channel, that you start supporting the channel, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, watch all the stuff on the channel. It'll definitely help your game out, specifically for Battle Spot singles. And yeah, with all that out of the way, I hope you guys can hit 1900 plus in singles. My goal is to be 2000. I'm going to try that in the future. Definitely check that out in the future. But right now, I'm still doing a few more Battle Spot singles vids, so definitely check that stuff out. This was Groudon Empire. Peace out.